This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
She is somebody that helps us heal from relationships that contain trauma, specifically a narcissistic relationship. Heard that word narcissist many times and now learning more every time I talk with her. And she is back with us. So much to learn today as we dig in with Sherry Canino. How are you doing today?
I'm well. How are you, Steve?
I'm very well.
Good.
Aging narcissist? What is that?
So what a lot of people don't know and what it really doesn't seem like a lot of people are talking about this, like the coaches, because a lot of people that are getting into relationships that are now reaching out for help, a lot of them are much younger than me. So although I have a fair number of clients that definitely have dealt with the aging narcissist, and what happens to a lot of them is they actually get what seems like dementia.
When they're in that situation?
Not the narcissist does. No, the narcissist could be single, it could be in a relationship, just as they age, they dissociate so much that I think we talked about this in one of the other episodes, where they lose probably 80, even almost up to 90% of their memories. And so what happens as the narcissist ages, especially if they don't have good supply, right? So if they don't have good supply, and what's good supply is somebody who's really like feeding them their energy is what I like to call it. But, giving them adoration and, fueling their life, because that's what we do. People that are in these relationships, we're the ones that fuel them. They start to not have good supply. They're either gonna, a lot of times they will actually leave the relationship. That's when they'll leave. And, they might be in like their 50s or 60s, and now all of a sudden they're leaving the relationship because the person isn't giving them that supply that they need, and they start losing it.
Wow. So it's almost as if this is their
Go ahead and say it.
This is their food.
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
their oxygen. They need this in order to continue in that mode.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when it happened to me with my husband, of course, I didn't know. So a little backstory, I was with my husband for almost, I'm going to say 14 years before we even got married, right? So we did live together and stuff, but we weren't married. And I always thought it was odd. Like, I wasn't too worried because I was fine with how things were, but I did find it odd that he never, asked me to marry him at that point. Like you're pretty committed at 14 years in, right? And you're living together. And
well, you just assume that we're all good. We have history.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Of course, it wasn't all good, but even still. But
So I'm intrigued. I never realized that this is what's going on with the narcissist, that they need fuel to continue. And if you shut off the fuel supply, i.e. complying to whatever they want, whatever it may be, that they will potentially end it, move on in another direction, or I have to imagine retaliate.
Yeah, well, also like with just them getting older, the gene pool of supply gets less and less and less, right? I mean, let's think about it as we get older as people, it's not as easy to find a mate, somebody we want to spend time with, a significant other. And the same is for the narcissist. They start to lose their looks like the rest of us do. They start to lose their ability to put on that charm, to get supply. And so if they've been with somebody for a long time, a couple of things happen. Either one, they may leave you for a much younger person because let's face it, the younger the person, the more energy, the more they're going to put into this new person, they're going to fuel their supply. And some of us as we get older. So what happened to me was basically my parent, well, so my husband finally asked me to marry him. And it was really kind of bizarre in a way to me because I think he already saw signs that he was starting to get what looked like dementia. Of course, you know, I didn't know any of this back then, you know. So, whatever, we got married. And then a few years later, my parents got sick. And I was very preoccupied with helping take care of my dad. Then
Mm.
my mom had dementia, and the focus was off of him.
Mm.
And
Mm.
yeah, the less I was fueling him, the worse he got. Now, at this point, we're married. So he did at one point try to tell me like, "Oh, we're gonna get divorced and this and that." And I was like, "What?" I'm like, now we're like 18 years together, right? So we're married, had been together quite a bit, all of that. And whatever. Obviously, we didn't get divorced, but he the less and less supply I gave him, and the less he was getting supply from, outwardly. So he retired. He didn't have people giving him the supply at work anymore. He just kept getting worse. And I I thought it was crazy because when he got diagnosed, he was only 64, which seems very young. And it was like there were some days that he was so put together. And when I think back now, those were the days that I was actually giving him the attention, when I was really focused on him.
So I'm curious, rewinding, he or anybody, they're still narcissists, right?
Hmm.
Like when you guys first got together, he was one, correct?
Hmm. Yes.
Deep, deep, deep down inside. Did you know? Did you say to yourself, this is not good, but we're together, we just keep going. And through all of those challenges along the way, did you say deep, deep dip? And I'm easier said than done. I have my own journeys, I get it. That you knew something's amiss, but you just kind of keep going because now it's 5 years in, now it's 7 years in, now you got history, and it's like it's not the worst, but maybe that kind of thing. Did you kind of
Hmm.
know along the way?
Um, so again, narcissist was not a buzzword back then.
I get it.
Okay. Also remember I was 25 when I met him. So I was a kid in the sense, a very young adult, inexperienced,
Yeah, yeah.
had only been with honestly, really a couple of guys. Um, and he was much older. And in the beginning, because I grew up in so much chaos, um, well, first of all, he felt familiar to me in that way, right? I had the butterflies and um he trauma bonded me to him. But also his abuse was, I don't want to say it was different because obviously growing up in a narcissistic abusive home, but my home was so volatile, right? There was always fighting and yelling and screaming, and he would have been much more psychopathic. And so they're very psychopaths are very calculated in what they do. Narcissists know what they're doing, but they don't know why they're doing it. Psychopaths are extremely goal oriented. So he knew exactly what he was doing when he wanted to push my buttons, but it wasn't all of the time, right? Because a lot of the time he was working and he could hide stuff under the facade of like, oh, I got to go to work. I'm going to work, whatever. I got to go check the apartments or this, that, and the other thing. And so I didn't, I definitely didn't see it. I mean, I knew there were times when he would be like, just, I'm like, you're picking a fight. Like, I don't understand. Like, this totally upsets me. You're doing and saying exactly. But I was like, he's way better than what I grew up in. So it must be okay. So I made excuses. I made, concessions and exceptions you know, and was like, the grass isn't greener. It's greener where you water it. And so I just kept, emptying my water bucket onto the grass I had, even though, I just, I didn't know better enough. I mean, we went to therapy and he gaslit me in the therapy. So I never recommend couples go to therapy together that if they think that their significant other or boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever is highly narcissistic or could be a narcissist. Um, like we met with the therapist together, then we met one on one, and then we met together again. And it was like, it was all my fault. Everything was my fault. And I was just like, we did that about 3 times. And I was like, I'm not going anymore. I'd left every time in tears. Um, I was going to therapy and I couldn't even explain what was wrong with me. Like, no therapist helped me because I didn't even know really what was going on. I didn't know, and again, I blamed it all on myself. And this is what they do. I mean, he had me to the point he's like, well, you you need to go get on some medication. So, there was a period of time when like everybody was getting on Prozac or getting on, anti-anxiety, anti-depression
Mm.
medications. And he had me talked into doing that. And, so I got on Medicaid. I mean, I did things that I never would have done. Like I was the problem, right? I was the problem, but I never sat back and thought, I ended up being wife number 3 of his.
Mm.
I never sat back and thought, what's the common denominator? Because it's not me.
Did he know he was doing this?
Oh, psychopaths 100% know what they're doing. I mean, narcissists know what they're doing. But
Mm.
what ends up happening is, narcissists don't know why they have this compulsion to do that, but psychopaths do. They know exactly what they're doing.
Unreal.
And yeah.
What was your wake up when you decided that you needed to make a change? Where did that come?
Well, it wasn't with him because I went on to get into another narcissistic abusive relationship. So, it was after the last guy had me arrested, but um as as my husband got older and started to get what looked like dementia, and I started pulling back from the relationship because when my parents passed away, like any normal person who loses their parents, even if they're not good parents, you go through a mourning period. And he just wasn't there for me. And I just stopped putting into the relationship. And that's when he kind of was like, we're going to get divorced, whatever. And I was like, yeah, whatever. No, we're not. Like, I'm like, I'm too committed. Like, you could just accept the fact that I'm not in a good headspace right now. I lost both of my parents, whatever. So, yeah, I mean, he was very cruel. Like, they're very cruel when it comes to that. Cause think of like a 2-year-old who wants all the attention on them and they're not getting it anymore.
Well,
They just throw fits.
it was he was disconnected and it was on his terms.
Mm.
And eventually it gets to a point where he's not even supporting you in the passing of close relatives. And that's
No, he didn't support me in anything. Like if I was sick, I mean, and this is very, very common. They're very cruel to you. Like if you get sick, you know, I remember when we moved into our house and we had mold in it. We didn't know it for years, and I was very sick the first, I don't know, few months, 6 months that we moved in, and I kept, you know, it seemed like a sinus infection, but I kept running a fever, and I just was really down and out. And you know, of course, I worked for him, you know, it's our, at this point, you know, it was our business together at that point, but not really, you know. And he was just like, "Are you just going to lay in bed all day? Or you're going to go to work?" And I'm like, "I'm running a fever." I'm like, "No, I'm not going to work." But, you know, they're very cruel about everything. So, yeah, when the attention gets off of them, yeah, when you said like punishment, retaliation, that's exactly it. Start picking fights, start, you know, just being extra cruel.
I can't even imagine. Some relationships might not go as smooth as others, but in this situation, it's him not supporting you in that challenge. It's just another way of him squashing you down because he knows who are you going to turn to? Person you're closest to, meaning you. Who are you going to turn to? And now he's
Right.
like, "No, I'm gonna put up the wall. I'm not gonna be there for her."
Yeah, they never are though. I mean, that's the MO of a narcissist. They're never going to be there for you when things go wrong. And I mean, I've seen this with some of my clients, you know, some of the guys they've been with, they go find somebody younger, they go find, you know, and honestly, that's what happened to me because my husband prior was with somebody that was his age. So he was in his 40s, she was in her 40s. She probably had stopped giving him the attention that he wanted, and he came looking for me, and I was in my 20s.
So let me ask you this. It's been said that people pick people that don't support them because they need to heal. They need to figure things out. And that's why we make these choices. I understand it. I've lived it. I get it. Hear it from everybody. Hear it from therapists, counselors. Everybody says that. What do you think ultimately it was for you? Did you figure that out? Why you gravitate toward uh, people who are narcissists?
Oh, the last two guys, 100%. They reminded me just of my dad. And my dad would have been a narcissist if he would ever been diagnosed. And yeah, just that. I never really
Okay,
had
well
a
then let's go
relationship
there.
with my dad.
Let's go there, and I want your opinion on this. That said, it has been said that we gravitate toward what's familiar. So, what did you do? You what's familiar, what's comfortable? That situation. So, let's find another one. It's comfortable, not the best one. Let's go find another one. Do you think essentially that's what was going on?
Oh yeah,
Hmm.
1000%. I mean, I definitely, you know, even Professor Sam Vaknin will say that whether it's a guy or a girl, the person who gets into narcissistic abusive relationship, they usually have either mommy or daddy issues. 1000% I did. My mom didn't want us to have a relationship with our dad. I mean, you know, my
Hmm.
husband was 18 years older than me. This last guy was almost 13 years. So come
And
on.
Alan, what you just said, interesting. Did you just, I want to make sure I heard it clear. Your mom said that she didn't want you to have a close relationship with him, your dad?
She didn't, no, she didn't have to say that. She just prevented it.
Well, same thing essentially.
Yeah.
So I'm not, I don't want to speak out of terms, but it seems just what you said. Now, when you put those pieces together, and I appreciate you sharing that. And this is the rest of us, how we figure this out, why we do what we
Mhm.
do, for good or bad, why we do what we do. And we need to learn from the lesson. We're going to repeat it. We're going to repeat it. Wow. Mm.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Now you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, I know the first guy was diagnosed narcissist. That was my son's biological father. And
Yeah.
the universe was telling me, but my gosh,
Well,
I
you
was
weren't
a
listening because you
I was
didn't
so
know.
young.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And what do? We go back to the things that make us feel comfortable because we want to feel safe. And,
Yeah.
even though it's not the best, you feel safe in that, but it takes time to figure that out, as it did for you. And
Mhm.
what's the end result of it? You help other people figure it out. That's really, if you want to have beautiful ending to it, there it is.
Yeah.
And
Oh
maybe
yeah.
they say there's a plan. Maybe the plan was you having to go through that so that you could ultimately serve your life's purpose in terms of making others aware. Like all of the stuff
Mhm.
we're talking about. Yeah, we heard that term narcissist. Had no idea what's all
Yeah.
the different things involved in that. And has been an eye
Yeah.
opener. Want to open your eyes even more? Check out her books. There's a
Yeah.
reason that The Silent Abuse is the title of one of them. I see it there in the back.
Yeah, that's my story. So that goes deeper into my life and
Wow.
yeah.
Um, Sherry, best way to find you? How do we do that?
Soulfullywild.com. That's my website.
You put a lot of soul into it, and
Thank you.
you've learned a lot in your journey. And I
Mm.
appreciate you being transparent and being there to help others.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate you.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.